Hello and welcome to another standard video. Today we're checking out this white, blue and red or jeskai colored control deck built around Shiko, Paragon of the Way, a 5 mana 4/5 legendary dragon with flying and vigilance, and when Shiko enters we get to exile target non-land card with mana value 3 or less from our graveyard, copy it and cast the copy without paying its mana cost. So Shiko is the perfect curve topper for this tap out style of control deck where we have lots of interaction we can cast early as well as some sorcery speed card draw effects that then a Shiko can get back out of the graveyard, providing immediate value, and then a 4/5 Flying Vigilance is also good at playing offense and defense, so it makes for a great curve topper. Then some of the cards we're hoping to get back with Shiko out of the graveyard include a Stock Up, a 3 mana sorcery looking at the top 5 to put 2 of those cards in hand, has now found a home in a lot of different blue decks in Standard, and is a very powerful card to get back with Shiko. We also have a Rediscover the Way, which is quite thematic here, a Saga looking at the top 3 cards of our library on the first 2 chapters, putting 1 of them in hand, so it's kind of a slower version of Stock Up, overall does look at more cards, and then on chapter 3, whenever we cast a non-creature spell this turn, a creature we control gains double strike until end of turn, so it can also help close out the game. And being an enchantment, of course, has some upside as well. Don't have any bounce spells in this deck to put it back in hand, but we do have bargain cards like Torch the Tower, which can maybe sacrifice our enchantment, so we get to deal 3 damage as opposed to 2, and scry 1 as well. And then once Rediscover ends up in the graveyard, we can also get it back with Shiko. So card advantage is great, but then we also need enough interaction to stay alive long enough to cast all those extra spells. So besides Torch the Tower at 1 mana, at 2 mana there's 2 copies of Get Lost to deal with creatures, enchantments and planeswalkers. We've got a full set of Lightning Helix, dealing 3 and gaining 3, so it can also pad our life total against aggro, and is still quite versatile, so it can deal with creatures, as well as maybe go face to help close out the game, or maybe finish off a planeswalker. Then we only have 2 copies of the new Dispelling Exile, mostly because it's not a great card to get back with Shiko. We're not going to want to get back counter spells, so it is still useful in some scenarios, especially against other control and combo decks, where removal may not be all that useful, but against other creature strategies it's not always all that great. And then we've got some sweepers at 3 mana. I've got Split Up to destroy either tapped or untapped creatures, can maybe deal with some larger threats that our other sweepers cannot handle. And Temporary Lockdown, also a pretty clean answer to the new Steel Cutter being played in the Blue-Red Prowess decks, and can also have lots of other useful applications. And then I also like a one-off Brotherhood's End, since we do now have a better idea what the metagame looks like in Best of 1 Standard, so having some very targeted hate cards for specific matchups in a control deck that has access to Stock Up and gets to see so many cards throughout a game, I think is worthwhile. So Brotherhood's End, dealing with all artifacts with mana value 3 or less, can be backbreaking if you're up against the blue-white artifact decks with the Simulacrum Synthesizer. Otherwise, dealing 3 to each creature and planeswalker is still useful, and can also maybe deal with a Steel Cutter if our opponent's got multiples on the battlefield. And then at 4 mana, Bazel's a nice way to stabilize against aggro, maybe gaining life, making fish tokens, can also make a treasure if our opponent is ahead of mana. And then Ill-Timed Explosion, another versatile card, can either be a sweeper or just a draw 2 effect. And then topping off our curve, we've got Chandra, which can copy our instants and sorceries each turn, so that's quite nice with our burn spells to try and close out the game, or maybe copy a card draw effect is also quite nice, can make additional mana and dig for those instants and sorceries, and can also just close out the game with a -X ability. And the card we really want to copy with Chandra is Jeskai Revelation at 7. If it's stuck in hand, we can also maybe discard it to an Ill-Timed Explosion to deal 7 to each creature, but if we actually get to cast it, it's incredibly powerful, as we get to return target spell or permanent to its owner's hand, can deal 4 to any target, make a pair of Monk tokens with prowess, draw 2 and gain 4 life, so it's incredibly flexible. And of course, if we ever get to copy it with Chandra, it's usually game over. And then the mana base has 26 lands total, since we are pretty mana hungry, don't want to miss too many land drops. And then we've got a mix of the Surveil lands, which play very well with the Verge lands as well, since they have 2 basic land types. So then the Verge lands will consistently produce both colors as well. And then we've got all 12 of those. So overall, most lands still enter untapped later in the game, and a couple basics in case we need to search them up. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw with a fine hand. Got interaction into card draw into more interaction. And then we'll have a nice full graveyard in case we draw a legendary dragon. Opponent's blue-red, maybe the prowess deck, as we see a Stormchaser's Talent. Alright, don't have an amazing answer to the Steel Cutter in hand at the moment, so that's what we're looking for. Whether it's a temporary lockdown or something else. Opponent plots a Slick Shot. So I'm gonna have to respect it and keep up Get Lost. So it's gonna be hard to tap out for some of my sorceries if our opponent keeps Slick Shot in exile. For now, happy to take one. And that's where Shiko is pretty useful too in this matchup, since it's not only a threat, but it's also a way to get in front of a Slick Shot so we just don't die on the spot. So, yeah, I don't think I want to get lost just yet, but Lightning Helix was a good draw. And then Exhale I can keep as a counter spell for the Steel Cutter potentially. Although they might play it right now. For now, Sleight of Hand first. So they're unlikely to commit the Slick Shot. Now, if our opponent's keeping a Monstrous Rage, Lightning Helix is not going to take out the Otter, so we might have to Get Lost it instead. Which is reasonable, could also still take 2 in case they were sandbagging a Steel Cutter. Alright, opponent opts anyway. Still couldn't quite Helix in response because they kept up red for Monstrous Rage. Alright, and then now I'll Get Lost. Talent can also level up, get something back, so keeping Get Lost for the enchantment could have worked out. But at least I don't have to worry about Steel Cutter at the moment. And yeah, I think I'll keep up both 2-mana instants, and then next turn I could always stock up, try and find an untapped land, and keep up more 2-mana interaction. Opponent casts Slick Shot. And does not attack with it, so maybe they're afraid of a Ride's End. I think I still Helix to spend my mana. Can pay for Spell Pierce if that's what they have. Opponent is running this town in big enough, but I can counter it. Don't see that in every build, but yeah, of course has good synergy with the talent. So now they can still level up talent to eventually get it back. But Slick Shot down. Alright, so now we need to go digging for more answers potentially, or find Shiko. And there's Shiko, and a temporary lockdown. Could also grab Torture Tower that I can still cast. Lockdown is great against talents, unless they have another townie big enough to bounce it, then it becomes kind of awkward. So maybe I just go double Shiko. And then Shiko getting back. Stock up is pretty nice too. And I'll keep a Helix. So our opponent's going through the graveyard. And levels up talent. So now we have a threat that can also present additional answers or card advantage, which is pretty important. It gets back Sleight of Hand, so they're not going for a town in big enough, so they might have another one in hand. So yeah, I'll play Shiko. Go for stock up, even though I could destroy the enchantment too. And then Chandra is what we want, and I'll grab an untapped land. Probably don't need to keep more. If we can find our Revelation, that would be great too with Chandra. But just going Chandra into Lightning Helix and copy it is pretty backbreaking. So we're totally fine if this trades for some burn spells. But yeah, we've been lucky that our opponent hasn't found their Steel Cutter, since that card's a lot more difficult for us to answer. Did give up on a temporary lockdown, which would be a reasonable solution, but as we mentioned, them having the bounce spell does complicate matters. So if they Monstrous Rage, I lose Shiko and we don't take out Swiss Spear. So maybe I don't want to block right now. And then we'll see if they still want to go for it. They're going to hang on to it. And cast a talent. Okay, so now Chandra into copied Helix deals with both creatures. That seems quite appealing. And then we'll have a ton of loyalty to work with.
We can do this together. I'm ending this fight.
And we gain 6 life. So that's not too shabby. They are playing the creature land, sometimes a one-off. So they might be trying to bounce Chandra. Yep. That's fine by me. Can still recast it, and then make mana, cast Explosion to draw 4. Start by attacking. Can pay for Spell Pierce.
Time to light up the darkness. Fuel up.
And then even if they Spell Pierce, I still get the copy to draw 2.
Let's give it our all.
Decline. And decline. Okay. So we've got some nice answers left in hand. Opponent needs to deal with Chandra, otherwise if we find a revelation it's game over. They probably have enough burn spells and pump spells to finish off Chandra, but it's gonna deplete most of their resources. And then we have another Shiko left anyways. They do keep stock up on top. Can maybe get lost the talent that tries to get to level 2. And both are going face, interestingly. So at least here we trade for the Otter, whereas Swiss Spear would have survived. Get to untap, lockdown could deal with the board. So now Chandra probably wants to go digging, exile the top 5, try and find Revelation. Not quite, but Lightning Helix is still decent. Can also just point it at the opponent's face now. And then next turn Shiko, get back Helix, could close it out. So maybe just play the lockdown for the time being. And I'll keep up the extra mana. Chandra can also burn the opponent out directly. Spire animates. I'll let that attack. Opponent tries Monstrous Rage. Anything else? Another Monstrous Rage. Alright, fine. I'll put them out with their misery. And our opponent explodes. Sweet, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. Our hand's pretty slow to get going, but we do have some sweepers to catch back up. So I'm still willing to give it a try. The Surveil can help find land 3, facing what could be a Goblins deck. So finding a second white source would be ideal, and we got there. So then I can lock down into Explosion. Pretty good against a go-wide aggro deck. And Hornmaster is not even going to trigger if we lock down. So I'm liking my chances. But they do have the perfect curve so far with the Howl Squad Heavy. So that one will stick around. So if we didn't have both sweepers, we would still be in trouble. And then Explosion has some 5 and 6 mana cards we can discard to it if needed. Hordemaster, that one will provide additional card advantage. Also important that we have Shiko to eventually stabilize after the sweeper. But yeah, let's Explosion over second Lockdown. And then discarding a 3-drop in theory is enough, since Hordemaster dies, in turn shrinking the heavy. And then Beza's a nice way to stabilize. So probably get rid of my card draw spells. Keep the interaction and the life gain. Small chance they have like a Monstrous Rage to pump the heavy so it would survive here. They're gonna Torch. So they get to Scry. Finding a Headliner. Okay. And then Hordemaster triggers. Finding a Seer Slicer Goblin. Opponent runs out Headliner into Seer Slicer. So we might want to play Beza before we take any other actions, since that'll gain me life, make fish tokens, and then we can proceed from there. So then next turn we can maybe deploy Chandra. Impact Tremors, okay. Also good to exile with a Lockdown. So they're just on the burn plan here. And that is a lot of Goblin tokens being generated, so good thing we had another Lockdown left. Shiko can get back a stock up maybe, but that's not for now. So yeah, let's lock down again. Could maybe attack with a fish. But Beza plays defense. Opponent probably knows what time it is. And then land I don't need to keep. Another Hordemaster. Find an Explosion. So what's the fastest way we can close it out? If I play Shiko, I go for stock up. Can still have maybe 2 mana left for interaction, versus playing Chandra first. And then I can also maybe copy the spells we get back with Shiko, because we exile a spell and cast the copy. But yeah, I could also just play Chandra, deal with Hordemaster, deal 1 at the opponent. I think we just get an extra creature in play. And get back stock up. A Raceway can give creatures haste. So if they have a Krenko left in hand, that could be scary. But we found Get Lost and Rediscover. So I don't mind attacking with Beza now. No attacks. No play from our opponents. I'll hang on to the Get Lost. And then Chandra can copy the stock up, but then I'll be tapped out. I'll just start with stock up. Want to find a Lightning Helix to gain some life back. There we go. And then Torch, a pretty clean answer to the Hordemaster. Another Beza could gain 4, but I think we'll be fine with Torch. So Torch your Hordemaster. attack, keep up Lightning Helix, and then we should be able to close it out over the course of 2 turns. But yeah, we needed every single sweeper to survive, since that impact tremors was going to burn us out otherwise. And there we have it. Sweet, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the play with a keepable hand, I'd say. Exhale, I can keep and then maybe cast on turn 2. And then we can still cast our 3-drop on curve. Alright, it is an Esper Pixie deck, presumably. So Lockdown is a bit of a double-edged sword if they can eventually bounce it. For now, I'll keep up Exhale. Alright, Nightmare. I feel like I just want to counter it, otherwise they get to bounce it and it could be more annoying. Alright, they do have a Pixie. Pick up Talents. So Lockdown deals with Otter and Pixie. Now Brotherhood's End is a cleaner solution. Yeah, that seems fine. Just protect our life total, since our late game should be a little bit more powerful. Although Talent looping Town ain't big enough is still potentially a problem. So our opponent replays Talent. And a Nightmare. Do I just get rid of the Lockdown, since it could be a liability? Yeah, it's again a double-edged sword. Could also ditch the Explosion, next turn just stock up to draw. Keep hitting our land drops, which is important. And then Shiko, maybe ×2. Then discarding Lockdown still lets me maybe get it back. And I'll keep a stock up. So we've got some nice options. Not under too much pressure. Could be weak to Kaito, since we don't have any real Planeswalker removal. But then they would also lose the Otter token. I want to just cast a Kaito, that also makes sense. So then, I guess getting back Brotherhood's End can deal 3, which doesn't quite finish off Kaito.
My eyes are as sharp as my sword.
But then Shiko can at least try and finish it off. So Kaito at 1 loyalty can no longer -2. And can always stock up to try and find a Lightning Helix, for instance, to finish it off. So Kaito surveils without attacking. They kept on top. So there might be a Town ain't big enough coming up. Well, step 1, attack Kaito. See what happens. Kirin can get in the way. It's gonna pick up Kaito. Fair enough. So then, Lockdown still feels risky to me. So I might want to just stock up and look for other answers. Opponent is going to bounce in response. Found the Revelation. So what's going to happen next turn? Opponent can Ninjutsu Kaito with Kirin. What if I just cast a Lockdown now? Then it can still make me discard play Kaito. Revelation can deal 4 to any targets, including Kaito. So I think I go land Revelation here. Cast a Lockdown anyway. And then I can discard 1 Shiko to the Nightmare. Ooh, another one. So they're maybe not going for Kaito after all. I guess I keep Revelation and Shiko. Alright, so no Kaito right now. Can still cast Revelation, but won't be able to target Kaito. So then it's gotta be Shiko, get back a card draw spell. And find Chandra. Beza would gain life. Or I can just go for another Shiko, to be honest. Which in turn gets back the other stock up. And I'll play the land out. If they make me discard, I have options. So they did not sacrifice to Scry, because they have a Fear of Isolation. Into Nightmare. Yeah, probably discard Shiko now. Can hit for 4, play Chandra, go digging, and then try and copy the Revelation. They could tap down Shiko with Kaito to attack Chandra for 2, but that's fine. And then I probably leave red mana untapped in case I find Torture Tower.
Time to light up the darkness.
Alright, can double Lightning Helix, I guess. That's pretty good too. And then sure, if they make me discard the Revelation, I'll be a little bit sad. But we still have a Chandra and a Shiko on the battlefield.
Let's give it our all.
So I think we'll survive. But it would be nice to copy the Revelation here. So there's Kaito.
Looks like I gotta fight my way out of this one.
Tap down Shiko. Play a land. And yeah, let's just go for it now. Can return Shiko to hand. Deal 4 to Kaito. And then return, I guess, your Anchorage to hand. Deal 4 to my opponents. Make a bunch of prowess monks. And yeah, that's gonna be good enough. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a fine hand. This will only make red initially, but we'll still have blue from the other Verge. So then we have Helix into Lockdown if we need to interact. If not, Stock Up can draw some more cards. Facing a Stormchaser's Talents, so don't know if it's Pixie or Blue-Red Prowess. Either way, probably fine to keep up Helix. But yeah, it is a Prowess deck, definitely quite popular at the moment. So in response to the Prowess trigger, I could Helix so we don't get beaten by a Monstrous Rage. They might Spell Pierce, which is okay. Alright, opponent is on Spell Pierce. So they get their Altar, but now Lockdown can clean everything up. Keeping Lockdown to maybe answer Steel Cutter later also makes sense. And the problem with casting Lockdown now is that I'm out of answers for additional threats. So I could take the turn off to maybe rediscover the way, and then keep Lockdown for later, although another Spell Pierce could punish me. I think I do play it patiently. And then another Helix might be preferred over Split Up as a pinpoint answer to a Slick Shot. So if they have a Steel Cutter, we might see it here. Just a sleight of hand. Could have also taken Split Up to answer the Otters and then a lockdown later, but then the Talons can still level up, so that can be a nuisance. Alright, so our opponent does plot the Slick Shots. We fall to 13. Torch. Could also maybe deal with the Slick Shot. So what if I grab the Verge? This one makes red. I can lock down, keep up Torch. Yeah, that seems fine. We do still get beaten by Monstrous Rage on Slick Shots, so that's something we'll have to keep in mind. Although I guess never mind, I can sack my Rediscover the Way to bargain, since it's gonna get sacrificed anyway. This way we also get to scry. So I'm actually hoping they go for a Monstrous Rage here, but they probably won't. It's gonna be a Swiss Spear. So finding Shiko would be nice. Say no to the land. Alright, there's Shiko. So if I cast it now, we can Rediscover the Way once again. Or I could Lightning Helix the Swiss Spear. Close call, since we have both card draw and another Helix in hand. But we might have to be prepared to play a longer game, so then the extra card draw could be more useful. It's definitely close. Maybe I should just Lightning Helix. Not be too greedy. Stock up is likely to resolve, and then we should find more action. Our opponent does have the Cutter. Into an Opt to enable it. So if they have a Monstrous Rage, they could trade. So then I probably don't block. Opponent doesn't attack. Alright, so step 1, stock up. Opponent's maybe considering a Spell Pierce, grab another Shiko, and then Explosion versus stock up. If the monks get out of hand, Explosion could be good, but I feel like stock up is still better. Just gives us more selection. And the Get Lost doesn't answer the Cutter. At this point I'm looking for Revelation and Chandra. And there's a Slick Shot. And enter the Enigma. So they probably have Spell Pierce as their last card. If they don't, then we get to deny the card draw, so I feel like I still try this. Alright, that worked. So that was kind of a blowout. One card left in hand. Still have to be careful if they find a bounce spell for lockdown, since that could get their talents back. Sure, I'll trade. Got another Shiko coming up. So we'll start there, get back stock up. Could have also rediscovered instead, but yeah, our opponent has seen enough. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play here with a keepable hand. Missing blue, but no blue spells in hand. Shiko is tempting, but we'll still need to find some other cards to make Shiko castable. So, yeah, I think I sadly decline. Also just need to hit our land drops for Chandra. Opponent's blue-white with a temple, so doesn't bode well for us if they're on a more controlling build. And we're also weak to Omniscience combo. Alright, it is artifacts. So that's good to know. Do I Helix face? I don't think so. Can maybe copy it with Chandra later. And then Beza will draw a card at least. So we need to find our Brotherhood's End. Lockdown still deals with artifact tokens that they might get from Synthesizer. And there it is. Alright, lands are good. So the goal here is protect Chandra. Use it to dig towards Brotherhood's End. Don't have any counter spells for Battlefront, sadly. Their opponent passes, okay. Found a tap land. Opponent's got the Saw Blades for Beza, that's acceptable. And then don't need Parlor. Alright, so next turn I can cast Chandra. Opponent can sack Saw Blades to get another Synthesizer in the meantime. Get your first constructs. And are we casting a Battlefront, or is our opponent afraid of a counterspell? Repurposing Bay. Sure. So, I don't think there's a point in casting burn spells to contain the constructs. Another Chandra. So, yeah, probably have to lock down first. Since if I Chandra, I would just die, since I don't have the mana to follow up. But yeah, it's gonna be tough. So I might now have to burn some of the constructs, just so I don't die to them, if I try and tap out for Chandra. Anchorage animates. Happy to take that out with a Helix. Can also sack Lockdown to a Torture Tower, actually, so we get to scry, put Lockdown in the graveyard for Shiko. That probably works out better. And don't need Helix. So if they don't make any constructs here, that would be pretty nice for us. But they're probably just sacking a 3-drop to Repurposing Bay. No, they don't. Okay, so now Chandra can go digging. And then we're not in any immediate danger of dying next turn, I don't think. So let's do that. Keep up a red mana if possible. Could also make mana so I can Lightning Helix twice. And then our opponent falls to 10. Next turn I can Helix again. And then maybe burn them out with Chandra. Yeah, that's also a possibility. Yeah, I guess that's fine.
We can do this together.
Not sure if they have any counter spells we need to worry about. But Repurposing Bay can only be used as a sorcery, so it's not like they can put a 4-drop in play here. They will now get to resolve their Battlefront, which I guess is likely to find removal for Chandra, like a Net or the other 3-mana artifact. So maybe that was a little ambitious. Opponent sacking Bay to get a 4-drop. Solemn. And that's alright. Yeah, if I just play Chandra and then plussed to look for instants and sorceries in the top 5, we can maybe find a Brotherhood's End. So that was the other line we could have taken. A Revelation could also be quite powerful. if we still have Chandra on the battlefield to copy it. Get Lost is also quite poor in the matchup since it gives the opponent a bunch of artifacts. So Solemn finds Plains. Do you have an answer to Chandra? No, they're just attacking with Anchorage, we're happy. Okay, so Chandra falls to 5 loyalty. So then 4 from Chandra, 6 from Helix's game. Alright. So that was lucky.
No turning back now.
Otherwise we maybe needed to take a slightly different approach. Sweet, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw with a keepable hand. Got good tools against aggro, and then stock up for card draw. So what's not to like? Might be up against the new Jeskai Oculus deck. So finding an answer to the Oculus itself is going to be important. Explosion doesn't quite do it. Yeah, we are a little bit soft to the 5/5 flyer. We've got the one of Split Up, and then Get Lost can all take care of it. For now, I guess we'll main phase Helix the Elite so they don't get to enable the Mako. And there's a Fear. Do you have an Oculus? You do. Alright, so if they can reanimate it, we're in trouble. Also have to watch out for Spell Pierce. But for now, can stock up. And yep, opponent has a Spell Pierce. So next turn Beza still buys us some time, but yeah, Oculus flies. Doesn't seem like they can bring it back right now, but we're still taking quite the beating. Opponent discarding another Spell Pierce, in fact. Although Beza's kind of the perfect play here. And gain 4, make a pair of fish tokens, and a 4/5 lines up reasonably well. But it looks like they finally found their helping hand for Oculus. Okay, so need to find a solution as soon as possible. Stock up, can maybe find a Get Lost. Torture Tower in combination with another burn spell could do it. For now, let's see, I guess keep up a red mana, although I could find a counter spell I want to keep up. Could also double Torture Tower with the fish tokens as a bargain. And then, yeah, exiling the Oculus is a nice solution. Found a Get Lost. And then, what's next? So I could Get Lost Oculus right now. I could take Chandra to double Get Lost next turn. And then, of course, have a Chandra on the battlefield, which is nice. Although stock up with Chandra is pretty sweet too. But yeah, if I go for Chandra, I can't quite stock up alongside it. I don't think I want to give my opponent more face-down cards if I can help it. So then, where does that leave us? I think it's still Get Lost Chandra. Keep up Get Lost. Don't have to cast it right this second, since our opponent might use Fear to let Oculus attack twice. Opponent had another Mako as a face-down card. And Eidetic Memory, sure. Target Oculus, and then hopefully they commit Fear to attack twice. No, just Oculus, so hope this works. And then Tersa Light Shatter is also close to getting stuff back out of the graveyard. Another Oculus on top, our opponent could just cast. But they put it in a graveyard. Do they have a way of bringing it back right now, perhaps? Another Oculus, that one they'll keep. And the Brotherhood's End. So, if I were to Brotherhood's End, I can also Torture Tower to finish off Fear of Missing Out. And then what's my solution if they cast Oculus? I guess I just use Chandra to deal 6 damage to it. So that seems like a reasonable sequence. So then I should probably attack here after I cast my sweeper. I guess I can torch with Bargain first on the fear. So I get to scry. And then Shiko is good. So clear board. Hit you for 4. And then still gonna play my tap land out, keep on top. So Chandra can deal 5 to just trade for Oculus, since it doesn't enter with a counter, but Shiko can also get back Get Lost to answer it. Opponent left Oculus in the graveyard, and enough types for Delirium as well, and Dragon Hunt milled. Alright, I think we still wait on Chandra, so we can better protect her. Shiko go for Get Lost, or I can Shiko get back Stock Up, and hope to find additional interaction, although that might be a little greedy. If I do find a Lightning Helix, I can copy it with Chandra next turn, and then that's still enough for Oculus. So we do have a couple options here. What's my main concern with Shiko Get Lost Oculus? That they get a reanimation spell to get back Oculus, and then we're kind of in a worse position as before. Not really in danger of dying right away. So maybe I do Shiko back the Stock Up here. Find another Shiko and a land. Surveil. And there's Lightning Helix to go with Chandra. So we'll pass. Shiko also good at protecting Chandra from flying creatures. And then Dragon Hunt will draw. Don't know if they'll want to discard as well. With Memory, they will now get an extra +1 counter. Hopefully they can draw again, otherwise Oculus could get out of range. But for now, take 6. We're also getting close to just burning the opponent out, but... Ooh, Helping Hand back another Oculus. Okay, that's getting a little dicey. So what's the play now? I do have enough mana where I can play Chandra, deal damage, and still cast double Lightning Helix. So, let's see. Yeah, I guess I can just deal with double Oculus, and then play defense to protect Chandra. So Helix, 1 each. And then 3 damage to both can finish them off. Alright, so most Oculus dealt with, but they could still reanimate it. And Chandra could die if they attack all out. Alright, so I should have been keeping better track of the face-down cards. We'll try this. Chandra down. But our opponent has to pass it back, so now we get to smash for 8, and then get back Helix with Shiko would do it. Alright, so ended up being pretty close. But yeah, Chandra manages to stabilize against Oculus. Alright, sweet. So we get to see this interesting take on jeskai control in action. And yeah, it's definitely more of a tap-out control deck, meaning we're going to have lots of great tools for answering opposing aggro and creature strategies, but since we don't have a lot of counter spells ourselves, that leaves us vulnerable to other, more controlling strategies that do have access to more counter spells, as well as spell-based combo decks. Thinking of the Omniscience combo deck is also going to be pretty tough if they have a good hand. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.